So this is a camera that shoots both 120 film and 35mm, has a waist level finder, and you could pick one up for only around £50 on eBay if you tried. On paper, the Lubitel is the obvious choice if you want to move into the world of medium format, but does it actually take good pictures? So the camera is based off a 1940s Soviet design. The camera is a TLR, which means it is a twin lens reflex. You have one lens at the bottom that actually exposes the film, and then the lens at the top which is reflected into the waist level finder so you can compose and focus. The viewfinder is a waist level finder, so you look down at the camera when you want to focus and compose, just like a Rolleiflex. This gives you a pretty accurate image composition wise, compared to a rangefinder or something like that. This will be more accurate than a rangefinder and nearly as accurate as an SLR, but obviously it will be a tad different, but not actually that much different if you compare it to something like a rangefinder. So I went out and shot with the Lubitel. I shot 2 rolls of Ilford HP or something. I shot 2 rolls of 100 speed Ilford film. When I went out, I didn't want to waste my precious colour film with this because I thought the shots would just look awful, to be honest, and not worthy of something like Portra or 400H. So the Lubitel has a 75mm f4.5 lens with apertures ranging from f4.5 to f22. Shutter speeds range from bulb to 1/15th all the way up to 1/500th of a second, which is actually pretty good. The bottom lens, which is the ones you actually use to take your picture, is an f4.5, whereas the top lens, which is used with the waist level finder, is an f2.8. This is because the f2.8 lets in way more light for a brighter image on your waist level finder, so you can easily see it and compose in daylight. Actually looking down the waist level finder and composing and focusing with the Lubitel, I found it quite tricky. The experience is nowhere near something as nice as a Hasselblad or a Mamiya C330 or something like that. You have to sort of find a sweet spot distance-wise from your eyes when you are holding it to ensure you're not just looking at a circle in the middle.
So you go both ways and it's still not...
It's hard, isn't it? You've got to get used to it. Other cameras like Hasselblads don't do this, but I guess it's a cheaper design. So yeah, if you don't get it at the right sweet spot, there'll just be a circle in the middle of your waist level finder, which is impossible to compose with. So yeah, you have to find a sweet spot. Focusing this camera, I found pretty tricky. It's sort of really hard to actually see. There's a little circle, which is the bit that actually changes focus. You can check the circle, check to see if it's in focus in the center of the finder, but it is really tricky to actually work out if your subject is in focus. The viewfinder does come with a flip out magnifying glass that lets you put the camera right up to your eye and then focus with that, which does make it a lot easier. But the problem with this is then composing when you're looking through the magnifying glass is really hard, and then you've got to move it back down to focus and then sort of pray that your shot's in focus still. It's sort of a bit of a dilemma, turns into a bit of a paradox when you're focusing this camera. But looking back on the shots, I think this would have been quite a fun camera to shoot some colour film with. Something funky like Ektar or maybe some slide film through this would give you that proper like Lomography feel, if you know what I mean. It's not really my thing, but you could definitely get some wacky shots with this camera, with all the aberrations around the edge of the lens where it gets all soft. Sort of looks like all your shots have some sort of fake motion blur around the edges. The lens does get really soft around the edges. The lens actually surprised me how sharp it was looking back at the shots when I was editing them. Definitely in the center of the frame you can get some pretty sharp results, but shooting wide open at f4.5 the edge of the frame is blurry, like properly blurry. Stop down to f8 or f11 or something like that, you do get much sharper shots overall across the frame, but no wide open unless you're doing a portrait at closest focusing distance. It does look pretty cool. I thought it looked cool. Definitely works for portraits, but when you're shooting at f4.5 at infinity, you can really see how soft the edge of the frame is. So this camera lets you take multiple exposures on the same frame. It's not really my thing. I don't really do many. I decided to do some with this camera just to see what it would look like. There were definitely a couple of accidental ones because it still lets you take the frame, obviously, if you haven't rolled on the frame. You sort of have to remember which frame you're on when you look at the little number on the back, which is quite tricky because on my Pentax or something like that with a Hasselblad, if you expose the frame, you have to wind on the film. Obviously, there's no system for it, which is fair enough. It's such a simple design camera. It's just something you have to look out for when you're shooting with this. So yeah, the multiple exposures came out quite cool, actually. There was one of Freddy and a tree that I did. I didn't really know what it was going to look like. It looks all right. I think it's all right. I don't know. It's quite Lomography. Yeah, the shots were cool. I got a couple cool portraits. I shot one at the beach at, I think it was f8 or f11, I can't remember, a sharper aperture, and that one came out nice. That one looked good, it was nice and sharp. So if you buy the 166U version of the Lubitel, which stands for Universal, this camera shoots both 35mm and 120. Personally, I'm not really into shooting 35mm film through a 120 camera, like exposing the whole strip with the sprocket holes. I don't think it looks that cool. Maybe that's your thing, and if it is, then the 166U version of this camera lets you shoot 35mm through it too. The Lubitel also lets you decide which frame size you want to shoot, so you can shoot 6.6 or 6.45 through this camera. I shot these rolls at 6.6 because I don't really like 6.45. 6.45. I think 6.6 is a really fun ratio to compose with. I used to shoot in a Hasselblad, and I think shooting in 6.6 composition wise is fun, especially for things like portraits. I think it really works. So in conclusion then, I think purely for how cheap you can get this camera, you could pick one up for £50 on eBay. Depending on the model, like if you tried, you could get one for probably less than £30 on eBay. And so in that sense, why not? Go for it. If you're thinking about moving into medium format, or you're just slightly interested in this camera, or even for its heritage, this camera's got a lot of history that's quite interesting, I'd pick one up. I mean, it's fun to shoot with. It was quite nice shooting, just bringing the camera everywhere with me, sort of shooting with the Lomography mindset of not thinking about your pictures, which isn't really my thing. I attack photography in a very technical fashion, so this camera sort of forced me to shoot in a bit more of a relaxed way. So yeah, definitely pick one of these up. I mean, if you can find one in good condition for a good price, yeah, go for it. It's a fun camera. But to be honest, I'm not sure if I'm gonna pick it back up anytime soon. Thank you for watching this video. If this helped you decide whether you want to buy one or whether you don't want to buy one anymore, or if it's just helped you in any way or you were entertained, give me a like. That would really help my channel out, and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching this video. I will catch you in the next one. Cheers.